But this kind of leads me into a more controversial topic that I dare not talk about without a woman being present.
Okay.
Abortion. And
Okay.
you kind of mentioned, free will and the ability to choose.
Mm.
I'll lead with this
Okay.
because currently, as it sits today, depending on your state, obviously, because
Mm.
most people just immediately thought that abortion is illegal everywhere. No, the right was given to the states,
Mm.
and now they choose whether or not they're going to. And of course, based on your voting,
Mm.
determines what how your kind of states kind of tends to lead.
Mm.
My issue is that currently men and women, let's assume we're both in a state that has outlawed abortion past a certain
Okay.
point, or let's say it's outlawed completely.
Okay.
You have to go to a different state to have abortion.
Mm.
Men and women now have the same rights, because
Mm.
before men had the right to give up their rights to the child. They had the right to
Mm.
give up a child for adoption. They had
Mm.
the right to completely walk away and just pay child support.
Mm.
Women also had those same exact rights, but in
Mm.
addition, they also had the right to abort the child and eliminate the chance of becoming a parent whatsoever.
Mm.
Men did not have that right.
Okay.
So at this point, we're more equal than we've ever been, at least in that one area
Mm.
of the ability to choose, because men have never had the right to choose. Once we ejaculate,
Mm.
we're done. We
Yeah.
don't have no options, no voice,
Yeah.
no nothing.
Yeah.
And the
Mm.
woman gets to choose, do I want to charge you $250,000
Mm.
for the next 18 years?
Mm.
Or do I want to let you have 50-50? And obviously
Mm.
there's nuances as it relates to
Mm.
family court and who has custody and all those things.
Mm.
But in a very cut and dry sense,
Mm.
women now have the same rights as men as it relates to the child in a given state.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on losing that right to choose, assuming you're in a state that can't have an abortion, what have you?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Roe versus Wade?
Well, my first thought is that I saw this coming from a mile away. And mm, it's because, like, okay, for example, when Trump was elected, there was a lot of women who voted for him, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
a lot of white women,
Right.
55% actually. And those same women are upset now,
Mm-hmm.
because their rights were taken away. But like, what have the Republicans been saying for decades? Like,
Right.
did you think like
1973.
when right? And they've been getting confirming federal judges for 4. That was all they did for 4 years, was
Mm-hmm.
confirm federal judges left and right. So now
Facts.
they had the chance to do it, and they did it. And I'm like, okay, big surprise. And I'm not going to go out and march for you, no, because you could
It's
have
too
stopped
hot.
this. Yeah, right.
It's
And
too
be
much.
like, come on now, I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna fight your battle.
Right.
But I think that like it's like a both a social and political issue, because from the politics side of it, like I'm not a fan, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and even the conversation, like you said, about now men and women are equal in this regard. Like I've seen some topics about like financial abortion where like
Mm-hmm.
if say the man was like, I don't want to have this kid and you're not aborting this kid, like get let me actually be able to legally just separate from this whole situation that I did not want to
Mm-hmm.
occur and you could have stopped it from occurring. Um and so like on the one hand I'm like, that's kind of fucked up. But then on the other hand
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, why force somebody to be a parent when they don't want to be a parent? Like
Right.
there's there's both sides to it. And like you said, once a man ejaculates, like that's it. Now it's just up to the sperm and the egg and all that stuff pretty much.
Yeah.
um but like I don't know, I'm not a fan of it being taken away, because some of these states, I don't mess with them and I don't mess
Right.
with how
Right.
they're
Right.
run. And I also feel like Republicans they irk my nerves a lot, because you're pro-life now. What
Mm-hmm.
about when the baby's alive? Like, what are you doing to ensure that like this country is to ensure, especially if someone's considering abortion, you already know their quality of life is probably going to be on the lower end of the spectrum. You just let us be, pretty much. So I don't agree with it from that perspective. And then from the outrage that we hear from like women, there's a woman talking about how abortion is worse than
Slavery.
slavery. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's just not. Like, why
And
are we? It's just.
it's amazing how like most men, at least people like myself,
Mm,
I see the cancel dinosaur walking past. I'm like, how do I avoid getting eaten by that cancel dinosaur?
yeah.
And like you just don't say anything. And if I
Yeah.
do say anything, I tend to ask questions and let other people
Mm,
talk.
yeah.
Which leads to my next question.
Mm.
Do you think men and women should have the same rights?
Same rights, just everything,
Mm-hmm.
together.
Right.
I mean, I mean, like, I
Careful,
I
careful.
know. I'm trying to.
It's a
It was a
trap
good
door.
question. It was a good question because like
Hmm.
I don't want to say no, but I, I'm gonna have to go with not really because
Mm,
while it's because we have two different experiences, um,
I
like
agree.
and because of that, you kind of you want them to be equal in a way that makes sense. Like so for it to be equal almost literally, like it's going to be kind of harder for that to like to sort of add up. You know what I'm saying? Like as opposed to it let's make it equal in terms of like impact because when you do things too literally, sometimes like the impact could be disproportionate to either side, if that makes sense.
It doesn't, only because
Okay.
as an educated person like yourself who goes to
Mm,
Brown University,
mhm.
when I hear people add extra words,
Okay.
when it could have been simple,
Okay.
I believe that men and women right now,
Mm,
some could classify me as a feminist and say
okay.
I agree that and men should have the same exact rights.
Okay.
There should be no rights that I have that women
Mm,
don't have. And
mm,
women, go Ray,
uh-huh.
Team Ray, he's for
Uh-huh.
the people.
Wait
And
till
then
you say the flip side.
I ask you the same exact question. Do you
Uh-huh.
think men and women should have the same rights? And
Mhm.
well, not really. And I'm like, well, why not? I thought we were equal beings. We should have the
Mhm.
same rights.
Mhm.
Is there any rights that women have that men don't have? Should we make that equal?
Mhm.
And that's where you get into, it seems as if some people have the mindset of that women should be superior or should have rights that men don't have. And it's okay. But if a man has a right that a woman doesn't have, we
Mhm.
down with the patriarchy, misogyny. And I'm
Mhm.
like, if I ask basic questions,
Mhm.
we tend to get the root cause of it.
Mhm.
And again, I agree with you in the fact that men and women have different experiences. We are
Mhm.
different by design. That's why
Mhm.
y'all can have babies. It's not a privilege that you get to have. Well, it is a privilege that you get to have a baby and I don't. I'm not
Mhm.
discriminated against. I'm like,
Mhm.
bro, we gotta go march. Why do women get to have babies and men don't?
Mhm.
We're different.
Yeah.
Hammers and ladders are different. They're both
Mhm.
tools. They're both
Mhm.
similar. They belong in the
Mhm.
same part of the house,
Mhm.
but they're different. You would
Mhm.
not say because I have a ladder, I don't need a hammer.
Yeah.
No, you need both because they solve two different problems. Men and
Mhm.
women solve different problems. We have
Mhm.
different experiences. We are different.
Mhm.
So some could argue, as you just did, that
Mhm.
our rights should not be the same. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say that out loud in public and say that men and women can't have the same rights or don't, because
Yeah.
previously Roe versus Wade was a right that men did not have,
Mhm.
and it was championed, but that's
Mhm.
not equality. So
Mhm.
when I ask the basic question of should men and women have the same rights,
Mhm.
we have this discrepancy, this
Mhm.
dilemma
Mhm.
of if I say yes, that means I lose something that I liked to have that men didn't
Mhm.
have. But if I
Mhm.
say no, that gives men the right to create new laws or operate in certain areas that oppress women or
Mhm.
give men a privilege or advantage over us that
Mhm.
we're trying to take down. We
Mhm.
can't have both.
Mhm.
Your thoughts?
I think so. Part of the issue is that there's almost like a competition aspect to rights that either gender has.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like I guess the way I'm thinking about it is in terms of like the challenges that we've previously had in
Mm-hmm.
society where um like abortions were completely illegal and women are getting doing crazy stuff to basically
Mm-hmm.
kill their children, so it's
Yeah.
like all right, we need to make this in such a way where like women's bodies are protected, and women can kind of choose what to do with their bodies, whereas like men don't have, or I mean you still don't have that, right?
Right.
like
Right.
but like um that there isn't necessarily the need, you know what I'm saying? Like there
Mm-hmm.
kind of is in terms like I just mentioned, like financial abortion, and like that
Yeah.
is also your seed in that woman's body, so like it
Yeah.
came from you, so like you should get to choose what's done with it. But
Yeah.
like then there's like biology and all this stuff, right? But like in a way it's like I think each gender has its specific challenges associated with it, and then you have like how society was in the past also
Mm-hmm.
affecting that. And so it's like to that's why I said like to make things, I guess it's kind of like, have you heard like equality versus equity, where
Mm-hmm.
like equality is so weird because it's like, can you actually make people equal? I
Yeah.
don't know. Like it's just weird. But
Yeah.
like especially when women and men are so different. Like this isn't
Facts.
really race, where it's
Yeah.
just like the only thing that's different is the our skin tones. It's like how what our purposes are so different. So it's
Facts.
like I think our rights have to be more along the lines of what our purpose is as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
like men and women need to be equal because it's like how can we be equal if we're not the same? You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Like it's
Facts.
it's hard. So like you said, like if I had just answered that question and been like, no, I'd been like, this girl crazy. But like you have
Right.
to give like the like explanation where it's like, I don't think men and women should be treated differently. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like I
Yeah.
don't think that like for example like abuse, like if a woman is abusing a man, like she should be getting the same like she should be punished the same way a man would because like it's
Mm-hmm.
still abuse the same way. Like I've had male friends tell me about how they've been like girls have just grabbed their their dicks and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and I'm like, that's not okay. That's not
Right.
okay
Right.
because if you had done the same thing to a woman, it would have been an uproar. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm like, I like speak up, do something. We gotta do something about this. They're like, what am I gonna do? I'm like, what, Cindy, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, this is the part where it's like that is wrong. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we
Mm-hmm.
should be treated the same, but our rights are kind of going to be different. They shouldn't be too different, and no one should have like an advantage or an edge or over the other. But it's like we also have to kind of make sure that each gender is taken care of based on what their purpose or their like basically their biological purpose on the planet is, if that makes sense.
And in light of all the transgender community and what have you, and the ability to kind of it's fluid as it were. Like we're just kind of
Yeah.
trading places whenever we feel like it. Who decides what a human's purpose is? Who decides what a gender's purpose is on this planet?
That's a great question. Um, it's hard because it's like my friend was asking me like, do you think like transgender women should be able to compete with against
Mm-hmm.
women? And I'm like, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's hard for me to answer these questions because like I don't like understand it because I'm cis hetero woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. And that's all I know. And I don't know kind of what they're going through
Mm-hmm.
mentally that would make them feel like they're not in the right body or they actually identify more with this gender over the other. And
Mm-hmm.
like I also don't know how to express that I don't understand it without seeming like I have some sort of bias or I'm like homophobic, transphobic, because I'm
Right.
not those things, but I just don't really understand because it's really easy to exist in the binary. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like I can
Yeah.
deal with men, women. That's why I don't really talk about any of that
Facts.
stuff on my channel because I know this is what I know. And so
Yeah.
I can talk about this, but then you add in the non-binary and you add in the people who are fluid and you add in the
Mm-hmm.
people who don't feel like they fit where they've kind of been placed, I guess, biologically.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's just like it's kind of a wrench
Yeah.
in the
And the whole system.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like outside of just letting you be, that's all I know
Yeah.
to do. You know what I'm saying? Like I can just let you be because I don't want to project my I don't want to project me not understanding onto somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
So
I'm
I
in the
think
very same
that's
position. There's
so
certain
I
things I
think
just don't talk about. I just let it go.
yeah, outside like you said how there's certain things as a man you can't say.
Mm-hmm.
So you just ask. I guess that's all I would do is just ask because like
Yeah.
I don't there's nothing I can say. I don't understand it and it's not authentic to my experience, so I'm not going to comment on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I watch a lot of videos of the transgender community and just
Mhm.
I love information.
Mhm.
Because when I argue, I want to be prepared with every
Mhm.
angle I could possibly whoop somebody's ass with.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
like by consuming a lot of information, you just hear the struggles and you hear. First of all, I believe them. I'm like anybody who's
Mhm.
going under the knife to get anything done to themselves.
Mhm.
Women that get BBLs, that they truly believe if I get this is going to enhance my life. I'm going to get
Mhm.
OnlyFans popping. My IG going to be on 10. I'm just going to get
Mhm.
flued out.
Mhm.
And then you have men. Well, men getting their face done and
Mhm.
what have you.
Yeah.
But you see people that truly believe what they're doing and their actions show that.
Mhm.
And then you hear about the pain that they're experiencing.
Mhm.
I'm not sure there's a lot of people that are willing to just go out of their way to express pain outside of there might be a return on investment for it, maybe a
Yeah.
GoFundMe or
Mhm.
monetization in a certain way.
Mhm.
But just hearing a lot of the stories, I'm like, these people they're struggling like everybody else is struggling.
Mhm.
And obviously, we live in a world where oppression Olympics is kind of taking the world by storm. Everybody's
Yeah.
more oppressed than the next person.
Mhm.
I'm like, Well, and you heard my little spill on oppression. I'm like, I don't think oppression as we think it exists. We have to go to a different country to find true oppression, or just look
Yeah.
at how pedophiles are treated.
Mm-hmm.
They oppressed, bro. Like they be struggling for real. Like they live in the woods with no running water.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about I can't go hardly anywhere. The grocery store's out of my range, and it's just different.
Yeah.
And of course, oppression exists. It's just that there's degrees to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I 100% agree with you that it's a complicated issue of trying to separate. You try and draw a clear line of sand. Like if I'm driving down the road and I see a speed limit sign, I don't want to have to guess that that means something else.
Yeah.
I'm like, and people are trying to write laws very concisely and very directly, saying this means this. Don't steal this. And then yes, is it wrong to steal? And they say yes. What about if you're starving with your kids on the side of the road and you steal some bread for your kids? Would you do it? And I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, so your actions tell me it's okay. Your words say it's, which one is it? We try to draw these lines in the sand. I love doing this personally, drawing, and I don't do it with everyone because I consider you to be intellectual. So I'm like,
I
she's the
appreciate
right
that.
person to hit it with. Like, but like, can we draw lines in the sand? I don't think we can. Not in today's society, and not ever before. Because before we said women couldn't vote because they're different, and that was a disadvantage. Now we say women should have the right to abortion because they're different. Now we're trying to do away with differences and say no, we're equal, we're equity, percentage, we're the same. But then we're crossing back and forth as if we're not different. There's too many contradictions.
Yeah.
And so a person like myself says, you know what? I'm just gonna go to Florida, get out the military, and lay on the beach until I die.
Fair.
I'm gonna drink on that stuff, put a little extra in my cup, you understand? Bring me some Doritos and some Chipotle, man, and don't ask me no questions. And I'll ask other people questions, but don't ask for my comment because I'm not gonna give it because I can't be rational. But while doing so, I'm gonna contradict myself somewhere.
Exactly.
And I think that's the world we live in. Is like everyone's contradicting themselves, and if you ask enough questions, you're gonna get canceled. If you ask the right question, you get canceled. But it's just a question. I'm just help me understand.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're kind of trending is we can't ask questions. We can't give answers. Can't make assertions. Silence.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't think that's the world anyone wants to live in.